Hello book nerds, Emmy Walker here to do my August wrap-up. This month I'm very proud of myself. I read a total of 8 books, which is very exciting. And I think 3 of them, maybe 4 of them, were considered middle grade books, so they were a little on the shorter side, but I think 3 of them were at least over 200 pages, so there's still a decent amount of, information to take in, even if they are a little bit easier to get through. One of which I read with my son, which actually took 2 months to read because I only read a few pages every night with him. And I had a hard time getting through this one. I even would get to the point where I'd read just 1 page and I was just, okay, I'm done for the night with that one. But still, it was done and that's good and I feel accomplished. For, I believe, 3 of them, I read them during the Booktube-a-thon. I'm having a hard time remembering exactly which ones I read because I read mainly in the beginning of the month and I kind of slowed down towards the end of the month. If you're interested in watching the vlog video of that, I'll link it down below, but I'm pretty sure I will remember which ones and I'll mention them here in a minute. So I believe these first 3 are the ones that I did read during the Booktube-a-thon and finished them. I started, I think, 2 others, but didn't finish them at all during the month, let alone during the Booktube-a-thon, so I'm not including them in my wrap-up. I intend to finish at least one of them next month, so you'll see that in my TBR, which hopefully will be up later today or tomorrow. Anyway, so the first book I finished was Matilda by Roald Dahl. And I think at this point everybody's kind of familiar with this story, and for me I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I did enjoy it. It was very similar to the movie, which I saw before I actually read this book. Next up is The Adventures of Robin Hood, and this was retold from Howard Pyle's original. I do actually have Howard Pyle's original, which I realized after I was going through this one here, looking for a book this was the book that you couldn't put down while you read, I think. But yeah, so I realized I actually have that, the original Howard Pyle. It's a really beautiful copy too. So I plan on reading that one. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be similar to this because it's obviously just a kid's version of that, but I'd still like to get, the original version in my head. But anyway, I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. And the final book I read for the Booktube-a-thon was Grave Mercy. This is book 1 in the His Fair Assassin trilogy, I think. And this was by, Robin Lefevers. This one I gave a 2 out of 5 stars. I think originally I was going to give it a 1 out of 5 stars, but the story got a little more interesting toward the end, and that, bumped it up to the 2 stars that I was originally going to, give it the 1. But, I plan on doing a full review of this later on, so, keep an eye out for that. But yeah, I didn't really enjoy this one, as you can clearly tell by the 2 star and the almost 1 star. This next book, when I was looking at it, I feel like I read it during the Booktube-a-thon, but I'm not 100% sure. Either way, I think I at least started it during the Booktube-a-thon. Whether I finished it during or after, I don't remember. But that was Vicious by V.E. Schwab, and I absolutely love this book. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, and I'm so glad to have finally picked it up. I mean, I hear about this book still. I mean, it's been out for how many years now, and you still hear it all over BookTube, people mentioning it in book tags and stuff like that, and I am so glad I finally picked it up. It was so great. I think my favorite part about this book was the fact that there was no clear-cut good guy, or even a clear-cut bad guy. The writing style, V.E. Schwab's writing style is so great. Her Darker Shade of Magic book I really enjoyed too, but this one here, I just fell in love with her writing style. I wish I would have read this one first, if that makes any sense, but I just enjoyed this, and I actually ended up coming up with one of my favorite quotes, which I can't remember the exact wording of it, I don't want to mess it up, but it's on page 353 of this version, so yeah, I love it. It's so great, and I think my only complaint was that there were quite a few moments of like, well, wasn't that convenient? I felt like there was a lot of that within the book. Not a lot, maybe 3 or 4 times that it happened, but it just seemed a little like, all right. But anyway, still didn't diminish my 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed this book. The next book I finished was the 3rd book in the Last Apprentice series, and that is A Knight of the Soul Stealer by Joseph Delaney. And once again, I'm really enjoying this series. This is, I'm obviously on book 3, and they're really great for, I would say, like, anybody who likes kind of spooky, but nothing too scary. I did find that, like, if I'm reading it in dark, especially this one, I had the very, like, creepy vibe. My only reason for giving this a 4 out of 5 stars was because of the slow pacing at times, and it tended to drag just a little bit, but only in certain spots. But otherwise, I mean, it's a very fun story, and I enjoy the general creepiness of it. Up next, I finished Gathering Blue by Lois Lowry, and this is the companion to The Giver. I mean, it says it right here on the book, A Companion to the Giver, but for some reason I thought this was book 2 in the Giver series, so when it started off and it had no characters I recognized, I was very confused. I thought, I mean, it had been a while since I read The Giver, but how am I forgetting this much? But then I realized that it's companion, so it really doesn't have anything to do with the original characters. But I think it picks up again with those characters in the next book, which I don't remember the title. Anyway, but yeah, I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. It was a really good book. It took a little while to pick up. There wasn't really a whole lot of substance, I suppose. It was a very quick read, and just you kind of that was really about it. Like, I'm hoping that it'll come into play later on when I get into the rest of the Giver series. It might make more sense as to why this book even exists, but for now I feel like it just seems kind of pointless. But yeah, again, that's a companion novel, so for all I know, I wasn't even supposed to read it second. Maybe I was supposed to read it last. But yeah, so there it is. Then I read with my son the BFG by Roald Dahl. This was one I actually started reading a long time ago, but I couldn't really get into it, and so then I picked it up again as our nighttime book, and I've mentioned before that I only read maybe 2 or 3 pages, depending on how much is on a page. You know, I don't want to keep him up too late reading books, but this one, I found myself only wanting to read 1 or 2 pages at a time. I didn't really enjoy this as much as I enjoy the other Roald Dahl books. I mean, there was definitely the Dahl quirkiness in there, his flavor of writing that I always really enjoy seeing, but this one I don't know, it's kind of a snooze for me. I gave this one a 2 out of 5 stars. The next book I finished was Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and I am obsessed with this book. I didn't realize how much I've been wanting a book like this until I picked this up, and I think I just repeated a quote from one of the other authors who was praising this book. But yeah, anyway, so, but yeah, I really enjoyed this book. The one thing I did not know, because I actually didn't do any type of like research as to what this is about. I just, you know, I do a lot of my book purchases and book reading based off of, you know, reviews and what other people recommend, and so I don't always know what a book is about, and I kind of prefer it that way. I like to go in knowing as little as possible. So apparently this is a fairy tale retelling, strongly with the Beauty and the Beast, and you see some other elements of fairy tale retelling stuff, but I actually had no idea until it was pointed out to me, and then I felt like an adult because, like, how did I not notice this? But anyway, I have a full review coming for this one soon, so you'll get to see my full thoughts on this. I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. And the final book that I picked up for the month of August was Snow Like Ashes by Sarah Raasch. Now, I have this in my DNF for now pile. I don't think I will be picking this up anytime soon. I just couldn't get into it. I mean, I gave it maybe like 5 chapters, which is not normally how much I give, but it's a good story so far. Like I can see myself really enjoying it, but I can't seem to focus on it. And I blame a lot of that because I've started writing again, and typically when I write, my reading tends to go a bit downhill. But I'm just putting this on the back burner for now, and I do plan on reading it eventually, hopefully before the end of the year. I'll probably have to restart it because I'm only, like I said, like 4 or 5 chapters in maybe. But yeah, so that was a DNF, so I'm not actually including it in my wrap-up book number, but I'm still gonna wrap it up. So yeah. So there you have it, my August wrap-up. I hope you enjoyed the books I've read. Let me know down below any of your thoughts on the books, if you read them or if you plan to read them. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. See you later, book nerds!